Okay, so this next drawing requires us to do a couple of sketches, and they're going to be light, really quick sketches of two different environments and in one point perspective of an interior space. So my first environment is this one, my second environment is this one. So this is a vertical composition, this is a horizontal composition. In this vertical composition, we need to first establish our eye level or horizon line, and then we'll do the same thing with this one. So I'll show you how to find that that eye level, so then we can track that in perspective and then make sure that everything sort of lines up properly. The main space is the thing that's important, that is in one point, and everything else that is in there, if it doesn't align to the walls, then it would probably be on a 2 point, but all sharing the same eye level. So let's start with this one, and the first thing I like to do is make sure that I do have a 1 point situation. So what needs to happen is all of the horizontal lines, so all of these lines, if you notice the bottom of that that couch is parallel with the top and bottom of the image space, right? So this line that goes across is parallel to the top and the bottom of this image space. So that establishes that as being at least one of the criteria. And then the other criteria is that the vertical lines here also are parallel to the sides of your image space, right? Now, if you notice, these begin to converge. And when these lines begin to converge, that begins to establish a third point, so a third vanishing point. So what we're going to do is ignore that. And that is a product of a lens. So the smaller the lens, the more likely you're going to have these distortions. So I'm using a phone camera, so these distortions are going to happen really quickly, right? So that angle like that, we're going to take it and then straighten it out so that it conforms with our 1 point perspective illusion. All right, so I am at a 1 point perspective for this general environment. So now it's finding that eye level. So I look for lines that converge and then just follow those through. So I'm going to converge these lines and find another line that converges, and that line would be this one. So my eye level is here, and my vanishing point is there as well. So now I just got to make sure that this is nice and straight. I use on a ruler like this, I use these long lines. If you use a triangle, get a little bit more accurate, but right now what we need to do is have this as a reference, right? So if this is accurate, what that means is that each line that converges should converge to that same vanishing point. So that converges down to that. This converges pretty close to that, right? So what I would do is force it to comply with this so that our illusion becomes more believable. Okay, the end result of this is a drawing. The end result of this isn't a metic copy of this, but an illusion or a representation of this space. This line also begins to converge, so instead of having it angled, I'm going to straighten that out. Okay, so it's good to get a sketch and get a sense of all of these things. Notice all of these begin to converge, and that again is a product of the lens that you're using on your camera. The bigger the sensor on the camera, the less likely you're going to have these type of aberrations. So I'm going to sketch this out on here. I'm going to establish, my eye level, right? Look at the distance between the top of between the top of my image that I'm going to include, where the eye level would be, and obviously I'm going to have more on the bottom, less on the top. So I would say that this, if this is about half, this is about 3/4 up from the bottom. So I'm going to take that same reference onto this. If this is about halfway, right, and we're sketching, so we don't have to use a ruler unless you really want to, but I think that takes more time. So that's about halfway. And so I would say maybe this is more like 3/4. A look at the center of this composition. It's slightly off the middle. So if this is the middle, maybe it's more like this. And then I can begin sketching that couch. And just kind of feel things out first. Have this couch here. There's a little bit of space between that and that. I got the corner of that room. Goes parallel with this wall. Right? And then I can see the top of the ceiling. So that would be this area here. So the bigger shapes first, and then we can go into the smaller ones later. So that, and then this converge to that. Now we have that corner. Once we have it all sketched out, then we can get a little bit more particular with all of the small things that exist in there, in that space. And this is probably not the same ratio as this. This is 5:7. This roughly 8.5 by 11. So it's a little bit taller than it is wider. So my composition is going to be a little bit different than this one, but it's generally going to be in the vicinity. So that's that. Then the window is about here, right? So this is just my rough draft. I'm trying to get a sense of all of the objects that exist in this space, get familiar with the orientation, the location, my vanishing point. So then when I switch to the actual drawing, I've already done it once. And if I've done it once, the second time around is typically going to be a lot faster, a lot easier than the first time around. So I probably won't include the light either. So I took off some of the top, took off some of the bottom to comply with my proportions here. So I'm using a 2H pencil so that I can lightly establish things. I'm not dwelling too much on making things perfect. I'm more concerned with getting a general sense of everything that exists in that space before I start committing to anything in specific. And that's basically all you need for that initial sketch, just to make sure that we're sort of following all this, and it's practice to be able to plot this out on the one that you will actually be working on. So even the large one, my recommendation would be that you start the same exact way, and then you clean it up with your ruler afterwards. But you start off with a sketch, and if you sketch it once, you can sketch it a second time. Alright, so now we'll do this other one. And obviously my composition for this one is a horizontal composition, and just the same as I did with this previous one, what I'll do is I'll find that vanishing point, right? This table is perfect. It already describes that. This wall looks like it's working well. I can also use this line and have it converge. I can have this line and have it converge until they meet, and I can find my vanishing points that way. My vanishing point that way. Right? That a little short for my ruler. I'm going to use this table. Got nice sharp edges. Wherever these edges line up, that'll help me find that vanishing point. There's a rug too. Indicates the same thing. And that validates everything, right? This picture's a little bit off, but all right, so that's my vanishing point. So that says that this is my eye level. I was sitting lower when I took this photo, so that's going to change the eye level. So I wasn't standing, I was actually sitting, which brings the eye level a little lower. So imagine somebody sitting here. That's about the eye level that we have. That's about that's my eye level for that. These are crooked, but when we're starting off, we'll make it straight, and then we'll make the adjustments. And then these will all be parallel to the top and bottom. And any structure with vertical lines, we'll make them perfectly straight, even if we see them a little bit angled. Now this TV is actually at an angle because it's leaning this way so we can view it. So that becomes a very obvious thing. So this could be the only thing that is at an angle, but this diagonal here will still converge down to that vanishing point. Okay, and then you can just freehand that. So I would take this and flip it so that my drawing would happen up here. In this case, maybe more like this. And I would do my drawing on this section. So I have a vertical composition, I'll have a horizontal composition. For your drawings, you can have two verticals, two horizontals, whatever makes it easier. I just figured I'd show both. Okay.